All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the RomaPress podcast. We hope you are very, very well with the international break ongoing. Of course, thank you to all of our patrons over at Patreon. If you would like to join, get early access to episodes and other things as well, such as, and we're going to figure out a way for us to eventually, Andy, unload some of these things. But this lovely, lovely mug here that if you become the 10 USD patron tier, you can go to patreon.com/Roma Press. And again, get this knockoff mug that I technically designed, but you may or may not recognize the design from the AS Roma store.
And then you
Or
had your family in an assembly line to package.
yes. See, the good thing is when you have 22 kids, you don't need to pay a factory in, I don't know, Vietnam to have a bunch of 9-year-olds do it. You can have your own, put some things together. And in fact, this is not a wardrobe. This is actually an entire, this thing behind me, it is not just for decoration. And that's why it won't close properly, is because there are scarves, there are mouse pads falling out of this thing. When I make fun of the guy selling the knockoff kits outside of the Olympico, when I walk in there and you see Nino with his cart, or sometimes you will see them with a large bag and they keep it covered in case somebody from the club sees that they want to conceal that they are hiding or that they are trying to sell knockoff goods, even though everybody already knows what is happening. That is why the wolf on the crest looks like a cartoon character. Okay, everybody knows and accepts it. Patreon.com/RomaPress. If you would like to gain one of these knockoffs, we'll send it to you. Again, patreon.com/RomaPress, and then youtube.com/at AS Roma Thank you again for all of you who have subscribed, all of that stuff on YouTube. Every time I watch a video, it goes in one ear out the other. But if you could please subscribe, like all of those things, it does make a big, big difference. But again, it's only been a few months we've been
And
doing
also,
this.
if you can share on your social media
Yes,
platforms whenever we're going live. If you want to share the podcast, please do. Just to keep the word of mouth going.
and to keep the lights on here because we are not even though we've had offers, we have
We're
had offers.
technically a company. We are technically a
Yeah,
company.
technically, I mean we have been able to, and this is why the patron support means so much. I mean, we have had offers from companies. I mean, if you look at other AS Roma websites, Forza Roma, for example, like they have big, 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 and when we talk about Forza Roma, big money behind them. That is why they have their website may or may not look exactly like the website of Gazzetta dello Sport.
Yeah. Or
This,
there are others that work with other websites such as Tutto Mercato Web, and
yes,
and,
yes.
and there's a whole
We
line.
are,
We're
yes, the
we're
patron
just on our own.
support.
We're in no man's land.
We are all DIY. The fancy graphics that you're going to see come up on the screen momentarily when I put the upcoming fixtures of Roma.
Oh my god.
We don't have a design team. The design team, you're looking at him. The
John
live
at
stream
4 in
team,
the
you're looking
morning.
at him too. Yeah,
John
I
is 4 in the morning, chipping away at his
yeah.
keyboard in his Mac.
It just trying to keep some semblance of sanity, but it truly, I mean, the support we have received, it truly, I cannot express enough to you all how much it means, because it has allowed us to, again, we have had companies approach us to try and acquire us, the website and all of that other good stuff, so they can throw all of their wonderful adverts. I mean, you think you see some not so savory adverts on the site now? If we were to, like, accept some of these offers we have gotten, you would see some of the most, depending on your Google search history, okay,
Yeah, that's
Now,
important to keep in mind.
that is very important when
People
somebody
forget that. People forget, and so then we get like
they kind of tell on themselves a little bit.
we get our patrons being like, "Why? Well, why do I get an advert for nuns in?
Ukrainian, yeah, Ukrainian. Why is there somebody? Why is there a woman from Russia on my
Why do
screen?
I get underwear for nuns? Why do I get adverts for Brazilian escorts in Melbourne? Why?
Yeah, don't.
Why?
you-
Why am I being offered a special hand cream made out of horse testicles? Like why? And we're just well. I mean, that's
if you
Thanks
want
for
the honest
telling me
truth,
your
it's
thing.
your Google history.
Thanks
It's
for
Big
telling
Brother
us your thing.
Google. It's no different than the YouTube ads. Like when somebody messaged me the other day. Oh, I'm crying. I got an advert for. They go, you got an advert for pills to make your
Bird.
junk grow to grow larger. He goes, can you control that? And I said, no, man, that's through Google and your search history, man. Generally, search history
In
and other
general,
things you're willing to divulge to them. I won't tell anyone. Just know that I don't
just
need to
know
know
it's
what
going
comes up.
on air on the
Yeah,
podcast.
just oh my gosh. But truly, that's my long-winded way of saying. I mean,
Thank you.
the fact that we are in a position to not have
Oh
to
my
accept.
god.
I mean, the
It's in the
offers like that,
international break because we're almost 7 minutes into this thing and we haven't
and
said
we haven't
anything.
said a single
And
thing.
then
I know.
we're gonna get shit on because every time this happens, we get the same people going in and saying, "Well, look at you two guys wasted 8 minutes of my life that
I
I'm never."
didn't mean to. No, I'm not trying to waste. I am trying to express. Just it truly
John,
it means more than you.
you must have been the worst student when it came to those exercises when you were supposed to like write a paragraph and keep it concise within those limits of 200
Yeah, I
words. You
can't
just
do it.
can't. You can't. You can't.
No, I no. I mean, I mean, if people, I hold it together well here and in public. I mean, if even at the stadium when when I sit in the media part where you're not supposed to support or give opinion, that's probably the only times at the Olimpico where in public in front of other colleagues where it is blatantly and very clearly obvious that this guy has a screw or two loose. But it's my long-winded way of saying thank you to everybody. Let's get into Roma finally on the Roma Press podcast. So I admittedly, and I'm still not over the derby. I'm not over the derby simply because we had all of those teams drop points, and because we did have some people push back about uh, perhaps we were a bit too critical after the match. There were some people who said, "Well, look at the situation. There's a lot of guys injured. Uh, there were I think how many people had bookings in the match? There were three. Yeah, I can understand all of that. I agree with it, but this is nuanced. It doesn't have to be one or the other. My overriding opinion on this is when you have those situations, and to be very, very, very clear, these only happen two, maybe three times every season where you just have a weekend where everybody ahead of you loses, where Juve, Milan, Inter, Atalanta, whoever it may be, where you get lucky and a gift falls from the sky and it lands right in your lap. Now, what is inside the box, whether it is a piece of shit or whether it is a golden token or something, okay, is entirely dependent on to you. It's all up to you. The things have already happened. It falls in your lap, and these are opportunities that cannot be missed. Maybe this is even a bit me being hypocritical. I would have been relatively okay with the draw had you not had all of those other things happen where you had all of those teams, 4 of the 7 teams in front of you, drop points. I admit that is probably a logical fallacy or an incorrect way to look at it. I admit that. I've never said I am not a hypocrite, okay? But the fact that you had, and it before the ball even kicked by a single player, before the referee blew the whistle, going into that match, you had an opportunity to gain substantial, because when it's still a third, you're in the first third of the season, okay? 3 points to gain ground on everybody ahead of you is huge. It is huge, okay? And they missed that, and it still burns me. I mean, I still feel burned, and I still feel as if this was an opportunity lost. Are you still bothered by it, or are you over it? You're probably over it because you're much more mature than I am.
I mean, no, but I mean, am I over it? I guess I am. I mean, it's we've been through worse, and the international
Oh
break
my
is gone.
gosh, what a great way to look at it. We've been through worse.
We've been through worse, and also this is an international break, so it's officially, aka the period where where everybody can give a flying, uh, what about Roma, and this is the perfect time to sort of disconnect. And if you ask me if I disconnected, I did disconnect, and then these
What'd
last
you
few
do?
days, uh, it's easy to understand but difficult to explain. Kind of like what Ramon Monchi said. I don't want to, I don't
You
want
don't
to.
need to divulge anything. We
Yes.
probably just anybody who has watched, they just assume it has to do with cougars, which I
No,
can't
no,
blame
no,
them.
no, no. We're not.
Oh,
We're not in that area anymore right now.
oh,
So
I was about to get jealous.
we're no, we're down below. So it's fine now. But no, but exactly. It's for me. Roma. They they had a shot. They did well in the first half. They could have done more, but that's the end of it. That's the storyline of the season thus far. Is they could have done better. They haven't. And it ends there. Like for me,
mm,
it's all fair because it ends there. It's this is the storyline. The match against Derby wasn't some freakish single occurrence. It wasn't
mm,
the exception to the rule. It was the rule. Like that's you could have done more. You could have taken advantage of some situations. You didn't, and obviously there's going to be the ones that say, well, the team still was fantastic despite this, despite that, despite this, despite that. And then there's going to be the others who are going to be like, well, this team sucks because they do this, they do that. And I'm just sitting here being like, okay, now forget about it. Wait until the international break comes to an end. See what they do against Udinese. See what they do in the next few fixtures. And then we
mm,
can make a judgment because Roma proved in those first 3 months that they're very inconsistent. And in the Derby, we got exactly that. We got a team that opened up, seemed very, very, very motivated in those first 15, 20 minutes. Um, then kind of let Lazio back into the game. Second half, Lazio basically give up possession. They're gassed, and Roma don't take advantage of it. And to me, that just reflects how the season has gone so far in all those games, including Europa League, including the smaller sides like Salernitana, like Hellas Verona. It wasn't all bad. There were glimpses of good. There was a good stretch of good, of actual good, where the team worked. But we have to be aware and recognize the fact that it's the way this team is constructed. It's the way this team works. It's the way this team operates. And heading into the international break, that really doesn't help to to sit and stew in the misery that Roma likes to
mm.
propagate from time to time or
Oof.
repeatedly.
Very true. Well, let's put up now on the screen what their upcoming schedule looks like. And I think this is probably the best way to describe this is the calm before the storm. You have Udinese, Servette, Sassuolo, home to Fiorentina, Sheriff, and then we begin the slog of. I mean, There's no other way to describe this, Andy. I mean, this is what it is. This is without question the most difficult stretch from mid-December until mid-January, we have Bologna away, home to Napoli, away to Juve, home to Cremonese, which 99.9% of the time you and I would call that in the Coppa Italia. Given it is the
What
Coppa
would we
Italia,
what would we call it? What
and
is that?
given it is Cremonese,
Yeah,
do we
what is
even
that?
need?
What is that? Yeah.
I mean, you and I always speak of when it comes to the Coppa Italia. We have this very unique way of discussing it because there have been some spectacular nosedives.
Yeah, last
Some,
season against Cremonese.
but even before that too, man. I mean, I always talk about that one against Torino, one of my favorite
Torino,
ones to discuss.
Torino in the year that we reached
Fiorentina,
the Champions League semifinal. Fiorentina,
that's your
it's
personal favorite with
Spezia,
Eusebio.
Spezia when we put on six subs.
Six
Spezia,
substitutes with the meme. Yes. I mean, the
uh,
meme of Paulo Fonseca
and
holding
Lorenzo
up his finger.
Pellegrini being like,
No,
Paulo Fonseca being like,
I mean,
we've seen a
again,
lot. We've seen a lot. We are
I
literally like, it's you can say a lot about memes and about football teams, but Roma and us two are the exact depiction of that meme of the Vietnam soldier with
I
the
was just about to say Nam. Oh my god, I've been spending
helicopters
way too
flying,
much time.
with the Viet
Yes,
Cong swarming up the place. We are that. We are traumatized. These are battle scars. Like the fact that you have
fucking
to mention
hell.
a fixture against Cremonese in the Coppa Italia and emphasize how difficult it may be. Not good. Like it's not good. It's not good. But again, it goes back to the game against Slavia Praha.
Mm,
Today, with the chief scout of Slavia Praha said that to them it was clear as day that Roma had underestimated them. To them, in Prague, they felt that Roma were playing basically with the same attitude of the team that beat Slavia Praha so impressively at the Stadio Olimpico with such ease. So for
mm.
even the opponent sensed that Roma were not there in the moment. And how many times have we seen Roma do the exact same thing, for example, in the Coppa Italia, in a match that you should be winning, like last year, where we really, I mean, remember how grueling of a loss that was when we came here? I was really pissed off because it was just a straight path to a Coppa Italia
The fi-
final.
the easiest you have ever been. I mean,
Absolutely.
again,
Absolutely. After
gift. Do
Cremonese
you remember?
eliminated Napoli and Roma were
Yes,
not able to rally the troops and be like, okay, well, this is not going to be a walk in the park. That's exactly why we have to watch out, why we have to emphasize these games in the schedule.
yes,
It seems like, oh, it's an automatic win. It's not. It's not.
no,
Same
no.
thing with Servette now. Roma have to win every single game, all the two remaining games in Europa League. Can they do it? What Roma are we gonna get out of this international break? Because there's been so many
Mm.
surprises we've had. Now this is the third international break of the season, and after the previous two, we'd gotten two different Romas. So there is no consistent line in this team, aside from the fact that they tend to disappoint you.
Very true. So you kind of just touched upon it with what they need to do in Europa League. Ideally, you would be going into that stretch against Bologna, Napoli, Juve, and then I stopped at Cremonese, home to Atalanta, and then away to Milan, and that takes you from 17th of December to the 14th of January. So let me just put a bow on that one more time. Bologna away, home Napoli, away to Juve, Cremonese in the Coppa Italia, home to Atalanta, away to Milan. I don't again, I hate hyperbole just for the sake of it, just for the sake of effect. This is I don't want to say do or die, but this is the season. Yeah, it's the season right here. Because in that stretch, okay, I won't just say you know, two missteps. You the level of rope that you are playing with, essentially, to hang yourself is not very long. We are talking of, because again, I'll just repeat what I said, because you completely bungled it so early that now you have forced yourself. You have to get results in these. I don't know what is realistic. When I go down the list, okay, so away to Bologna, would you be content with a draw? Would that be an okay result for you? I mean,
The kind of bullet. I mean, but we're not in a position to say those things.
well,
It's
that's what I'm trying to get at.
I know exactly. Like,
So,
look, I'm out of the game. We got a wonderful patron, Kevin. He's known in the patron group chat for being the guy who, after every, what was it? Before each game, he's like, well, a draw wouldn't be bad,
yeah,
uh, and I love him for it because sometimes he's sarcastic about it, but most of the time he's serious about it. When you read out to me the calendar, when you read out to me the schedule that is really going to put Roma to the test, I cannot for the life of me be like, yes, let's drop some points here. It's acceptable, because I think I've done that too much. And eventually, obviously, Roma will still supply me with incredible material for my rants and for discussions. So that's fine. And I'll probably come to accept the draw here, a draw there. But right now, when you're looking at it from a perspective of a team that has to learn from its own mistakes, a draw against, say, the likes of Bologna, a team that has done excellent this season and is really doing
yes,
fantastic under Thiago Motta, for me, that would be disappointing. Obviously, Inter drop points against Bologna. Bologna have done very well against
Lazio, yes,
a number of teams in the league, against Napoli, against Lazio. So we are talking about a team that Roma could, yes, it potentially drop points to. But at this very instance, do I foresee that? No, I want to foresee a team that comes out and plays determined, doesn't like, shows that they've learned something from the match against Slavia Praha, from the match against Genoa. There have to, I mean, there has to be now, with the return of Lorenzo Pellegrini, Renato Sanchez, Paulo Dybala hopefully back at 100%. There has to be more quality, more reliance on set pieces. There has to be more clean looks from corner kicks. Like, there just has to be a greater threat in the air, because right now, if you take away Lukaku, this team, up front, will struggle.
yes,
And as
and
statistics
have
show,
struggled.
we miss Smalling, who's gone, and we're gonna get into it in a bit. We miss Roger Ibanez, who left, who was a big contributor to those set pieces, and we miss Lorenzo Pellegrini's quality when it came to that, and we miss Paulo Dybala actually being efficient on those. Right now, he got a bit lost, but those are all things that you can hope the team will address right after this international break. The problem is that I fooled myself enough times already this season.
That's fair enough, and no need to waste time. Well, hold on. Before we get into Smalling, can we talk about Agent Rudy finally getting the axe? We touched upon it in the previous episode, and you and we get a lot of things and a lot of takes wrong. This is the very, very, very poor man's version of like a first take for AS Roma supporters. Okay, this is. I mean, forget Stephen A. Smith. I don't even know what the lower person on the ladder from him is, but we call this
I
one
know,
from the
Nick
beginning.
Wright. Nick Wright.
we we called this one from the beginning, and the fact, it even makes it more just like chef's kiss, is my favorite man of all time, who, if you can't find it on YouTube, I tweeted it out once, and it disappeared from the internet after the club put it up, Watford in England. They decided to pick Kazzari, my favorite, most anti-football manager of all time. The fact that Agent Rudy was replaced by Walter Mazzarri, who I could not
In
feasibly remember.
2023, mind you. 2023. We're talking about Garcia and Mazzari in the same sentence in 2023.
I thought realistically Mazzarri, and this is just again my very poor conception of time, very very poor. I thought the guy was still maybe in his mid, early to mid 50s. I mean, I think of Mazzarri, I think of that awful, awful that that hair that doesn't move of his. That just sweeps backwards. It's got that. It's got a little nice flow to it, but it just it doesn't move. It doesn't have any body to it. Okay, I think of that guy, and I think, okay, he has to be still, early, maybe 50, 51. And I looked at at all of the press clippings of the guy, and it kept saying 62, 62. And I thought, there's no way. That has to be a misprint. There is no way he is 62. Walter Mazzarri is 62. I couldn't believe it. And the fact that, again, you just said it, Garcia, man, I don't know if I would be more insulted by getting sacked or more insulted by the fact that that is the guy replacing me.
Yeah, it's tragic. It's tragic. It's
Mind
tragic. I
blown.
think it perfectly encapsulates Serie A football. You know,
Yeah.
um, because really it just sort of goes against everything that right now, it's so funny. You got Farioli, who's a young coach who's doing really well in France. You got obviously the
Yes.
Zerbi in England, and then in Italy you have this big lump of old heads. You got Pioli, who's 60. You got Mourinho, who's 60. You got Massimiliano Allegri, who's a dickhead. You got Mazzari, you got Mazzari, who's 62. You got Claudio Ranieri, who's 75. You got, I mean, you had Rudy Garcia, who was kicked out of Saudi Arabia before they got rich. Like, imagine the guy
Right.
was sacked before it actually had some quality players come in.
Well,
It's
he was at the press conference of Cristiano, and then I can just see in a training session, like 2 months later,
Yeah,
Cristiano was like, "Listen, man, this
this is
get
this guy
no,
like this.
this is not working for
This
me."
is not working. And Mazzari now listen, he may do very well from like I can be the biggest loser of all, and Mazzari can turn this around and absolutely, carry Napoli to a second consecutive scudetto. But just me, the thought of Mazzari being in charge of the reigning Serie A champions um, is in 2023 is unbelievable. This guy coached last time he coached Cagliari almost 2 years ago and had them relegated by losing 7 games out of their last 8. So just the
Yeah,
depths of despair that somebody like Aurelio De Laurentiis had to go through to come up with that name is just
yeah. I mean, and to
and
say what you want about Luciano Spalletti, but man, just think of the way of football between among those three guys. I mean, you go from eating, I don't know. It's like going
But
from
John,
caviar to
but in a
crap,
way,
man.
but yeah, but think about it. Think about it. I mean, this is more or less the like. Think about what Luciano Spalletti left behind with when he walked away in his first time at Roma. Right, he walks away his first time at Roma, and obviously, okay, Ranieri comes in, but Ranieri basically takes over the remnants of that squad of Spalletti. Ultimately, that's like the last farewell. That's the last rodeo of most of those guys. And then after Spalletti, there was just nothing. There was just Luis Enrique, there was Zeman, Andreazzoli. So now I'm looking at Napoli and I'm feeling like, ooh, like, after Spalletti, Rudy Garcia, and Mazzari, that's supposed to be the plan. That's how we're gonna go. I mean, obviously, Roma have to do their own worrying. They have their own situation. They have their own.
Yeah, do we want to talk about that? I'm
No, no, I
already
don't
depressed
want to because
enough. I'm
no,
barely hanging on, man. That'll
I
set
mean,
me over
but
the
we
edge.
can't really talk about because there is not much to talk. Like the
There's
situation
still
doesn't change.
nothing from
There's
anybody.
nothing. There is no clarification on either side. There is no appointment set. There is no idea whether Mourinho stays or goes or what the hell. I can't be the one to say. at this point in time whether he should go or leave, or stay or extend his contract or whatever it is, or resign or get sacked. I don't know, and Roma don't know, and Mourinho doesn't know. So, uh, you know,
Well, not
that's
only that too. I mean, Pinto, man. I mean, the thing that bothers me with this,
you got a
and
lot
this
at
is
stake
just
here. I mean, and there you got a lot
well,
of
right. That
riding on this on these next few months.
and therein lies the problem. I have a big problem with things being left open ended. Just in my head, I it's something I really struggle with. Where so I could blame it on the OCD, and maybe it is that. But the thing that I just have a problem with indecisiveness, with having no clarity as soon as possible. Um, it feels like things here with Roma, they are in a way, I mean, technically speaking, because you have a manager and you have a sporting director, or the hell do they call him? Uh,
CEO, a
it's not
technical
general
director,
director. Yeah,
technical
no,
director,
general manager. That's what it is.
general manager, yeah, GM, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, GM.
Although I really don't know like what that means. I
I don't know
honestly,
what that means. Yeah,
for these last 2 years, I've tried to figure out in this context what it means. Nobody else in the league has that title besides Thiago Pinto. I still don't know what it means.
yeah. Because by the way, when I originally did the press release, I called him general director, which it's this is an Italian thing, man. Because in like Premier League, they look at technical director, general director, and they're like, what are you talking about? Just CEO, sporting director. That's it. Why are you trying to complicate it? And I say, yeah, you are right. Like Franco Baldini, he was technically general director. It's the way these things are worded. And Roma contacted me when I called him general director. They said he's not the general director; he's the general manager. So I don't understand the difference between that. But seriously, I mean, if things were to go wrong in this stretch of December, let's say for instance, I mean, man, I can't emotionally get to it where we're talking of. People getting sacked in January or February. And the other thing too is it's by the way, the thing with Jose Mourinho, because I have been on Roma about this once a week. I message them, and there's still nothing, as you just said. No appointment is set. There's been no discussion, either from the side of George Mensch or from Roma. There's nothing, not even an informal. And by the way, the thing I find most odd is, well, who has to be part of that conversation if you are Jose Mourinho? It has to be Thiago Pinto. But guess what? He's in the same situation. And by the way, same thing for him. Roma, no appointment has been set. They are going to let things play out in these next weeks. I hate having this out there. I just have to tell you, for regardless of your everyone else's opinion, for me, I hate this because it's as if you have this cloud hanging over you, man, and it's just it's
But that's
there. You
Yeah, but it's inevitable, John. It's inevitable. I really don't know what, because the moment you say openly, well, Mourinho is leaving, then I don't know how much good to you that does to your season, and I
probably
don't
very little.
yeah, I don't know how much of a good it does to Thiago Pinto, and possibly the January window, or his discussions with Eduardo Balde for his renewal. I mean, Pinto is on friendly terms with a lot of people, and said, yeah, maybe they're planning. You know how those things go.
Yes,
Executive is in talks to sign some player, then he leaves, and the talks fall through. Pinto is friends with Lecce. Lecce have Vladimiro Falcone. Who knows if that is not somebody that we want in the future, and so for me it's a frustrating situation. I agree, but it's kind of like when Fonseca was here, right? That was Friedkins refused to give Fonseca any idea of what's going to happen. One of the earliest criticisms I had
true.
for the Friedkins was how they handled the Fonseca matter, and then with like a month and a half to spare in the season, they told him, "Listen, Jose Mourinho
Thanks,
is."
but no thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I guess that's the way it's gonna play out. Perhaps with Jose Mourinho. With Thiago Pinto, I assume things are gonna happen behind the scenes at the very last minute. But I imagine somebody of Mourinho's profile needs to have these discussions at an earlier date.
I agree. For me, the problem is though when you have this lack of clarity, it makes it very difficult to set goals, objectives. For instance, if we knew, if we had a very clear idea, listen, Thiago Pinto, he's going to leave next June. He has received some approaches from the Premier League, and he is ready for a new adventure. No problem with that whatsoever. Fine, we have a concrete date as to when he leaves, and we understand the situation. That affects your transfer market. That affects how you build the team. That affects everything. These things don't happen in a vacuum. This is all everything that you do in terms of the transfer market to build a team, to find a manager. Everything that you do has to be done for a specific for a specific purpose. We are getting this player because we think he is going to fit perfect for the ideas of Jose Mourinho. Okay, well, if Jose Mourinho is going to leave at the end of the season, why are we paying this amount for this guy? That's my issue. Yeah, it can't just be about one season. And my fear here is that you have Romelu Lukaku, you have Paulo Dybala, and
Sure,
it seems
there's a lot of writing on it, but it's there.
yes.
But that's, I mean, that's Roma's season. It's Champions League or bust. Like, in the sense of,
Mm.
it's Champions League, and we continue on a certain path that we may have pre-established before, or come up with a whole new plan that is boosted by our qualification to the Champions League, or scrap it, and come up with something new. That's the only thing that comes to mind in this situation, is that there is no real consideration for the future, because there is no future without Champions League football right now.
Oh gosh, I think that in and of itself is a terrifying prospect. I mean, the idea of okay, you don't make Champions League, and now you have to tear down the entire house. I mean, again, just that for me at least, it's very taxing to even consider that, and honestly, somewhat depressing. Almost as depressing. And we have to end with this about this thing with Smalling, man. I am honestly mortified as to how this has been handled in a couple of ways. The first being Roma. When you would ask them initially, it went from he will be back in a couple of weeks. After that, it gets, oh, well, now we think it's long term. Then it goes to, we're going to change therapies and we think it won't take that much longer. And now we're at the point where we see things, well, listen, he just may take the money and go to Saudi Arabia or something like that. I mean, it's very confusing to me because this is a guy who, I mean, let's just be clear. I mean, except for this season, he has been alongside Cristante. I think he has probably been the most relied upon and
In
reliable guy.
last season, easily our player of the season, along with Brian Cristante and Paulo
Yes.
Dybala, to a lesser extent due to his several absences. But Smalling was an absolute rock. And mind you, let's remember, this guy just signed a contract renewal, 2 years until 2025.
And there it is. That is the thing that I just, it would have been one thing if he was on loan again, like the first time he was here, and this were to happen. Okay, fine. But Roma made a very important commitment to this guy. He is not. He is not on cheap wages. He is expensive. And by the way, um, Roma, they wanted to do more in defense this summer. Obviously, you bring in Evan Indica, you get rid of Ibanez. Jose Mourinho, he wanted to bring in another guy. Obviously, that didn't happen beyond Llorente. And I'm not going to say you put all of your eggs in this basket, but you handed the guy a renewal. You were very limited in your ability to bring in reinforcements at the back. You sold Roger Ibanez. You were relying heavily on this guy. There's no two ways about it. And by the way, you had already known about Kumbula. The market was still open when we knew about him, his situation. But still, Roma were limited in what they could do. I mean, to have even still, it's what, 16 November. When did he get hurt? Against Milan, which was in September. So 2 months. And still, we have this
Two and
thing
a half
where they're,
months. 2.5 months. Milan is on September 1st.
and still, um, no clear idea. And do you remember a couple of weeks ago? I don't know if many caught this, but when they were asking Jose Mourinho on one of his pre-match press conferences, I'm pretty sure it was against the home match against Slavia Praha. They asked him about Chris Smalling. He was just as confused as you and I. So I can't expect you and I to have any more clarity if
No,
that
we
guy
don't. We
doesn't know.
don't. No, no, we don't, because I think it's in this case it's really a clash between the methods of recovery that we're trying to that the club's medical staff were trying to suggest to Chris Smalling, the player's own doubts, the player's own feeling of pain, his consultation in London with another surgeon to confirm what they can do. At the end of the day, we're talking about the 34-year-old player, and
Yes,
you get a chronic pain, in your knee, and with him, I think it has to do with the cartilage in his knee. Uh, I mean, then it sounds quite bad, and it is probably quite bad. So with Mourinho, obviously, the for him, it's always he always values those that sort of brave through an injury, right? So the same goes for Lorenzo Pellegrini. Mourinho, on a number of occasions, he was praising Pellegrini because he would play through an injury. It's not wise for somebody like Smalling to go on and risk further injury, because the whole point is to have
correct.
him come off and be the same dominant presence as he was last season. But this is worrying. This is worrying because Roma once again need reassurances. This was a player that gave you plenty of those last season. He was scoring headers. He had like two yellow cards all season long. He was a rock. He was magnificent. And now, in a year that really sees you fail to score off of set pieces, sees your defense be a little more disorganized, all of a sudden the guy that you're paying what 3 million or something like that along those lines is out indefinitely. And this is not a scrub, this is not a Primavera player, this is Chris Smalling. And for Roma in 2023, I know, yes, 34-year-old Smalling is crucial.
Yeah, and again, you were very limited in what you could do in the summer. I can guarantee you, Roma are going to be just as limited in the January transfer market. You and I always warn people: do not expect a single thing in January. The more you get your hopes up, okay, the more you are going to be devastated when they introduce. Who is the guy you always? Jonathan Silva. Where is he playing now? By the way, do you know?
No, I don't know. The last time I caught him, he was playing for Alaves in La Liga.
That
um
sounds about right.
Yeah, well,
Um,
I mean, he wasn't doing so bad, It almost seemed like he was a guy without a career. Jonathan Silva, oh yeah, Spanish club Albacete Balompié on loan from Getafe, 29 years of age, in Liga Dos, I think. Yeah,
oh, fantastic.
yeah.
Absolutely fantastic. I just remember the braids that he had. Do you remember when he did that
Yes,
hairstyle? That was
he still has the braids.
oh, he does.
He
Oh,
does. Yeah,
okay.
yeah. He incorporated that
Fantastic.
because that was the best time of his career, playing against the Empoli for 60 minutes. That was a real highlight.
Well, and you know too, one of my other favorites, your man, Clément Grenier. I believe his only contribution was against, Palermo, if I am remembering correctly.
He
You're
made a
not
backheel pass against Fiorentina in a 4-1 win.
you are right. You are I do remember that. We are essentially saying not that they're screwed without Smalling, but they are very limited in what they can do. And I just to have to rely on a guy that much, it is bothersome. But you know what? This is the situation they are in. We know their financial situation, and it is what it is. And I somehow cannot believe we have made it to almost 45 minutes of an episode speaking absolute nothing. So if you
That's
made
why
it
you
this
should.
far,
That's why you should subscribe
thank you.
to the top tier of the Patreon, because it's not many people can spin bullshit as well as we do, and it's a very hard job. It ain't much, but it's an honest job. So
Thank you. That's all we could say. Thank you. We will be back on Monday. Until then, ciao.
ciao.